to speak today. I always enjoy what he has to share, and I always like seeing him on meetings. So I'd like to introduce Bob N.
Thank you, Bridget. Let's see. Yeah, I'm unmuted, I guess. Thank you very much, Bridget. I'm glad you told me you're on the East Coast. When I was jotting down some notes, thinking, oh, this is an old-fashioned meeting. Somehow my, shotgun keen brain said it's a secular meeting, and I translated that into old-fashioned AA. So I've got a bunch of no, I don't have the notes. I wouldn't have done it that way, but I was planning on a lot of hosannas today, so I'll just cross that off for now. So my name is Bob Nelson, and out of respect for you, I should get to the meat of things. And so I did write down a couple things. So I've been clean and sober, honestly and inevitably, and hopefully foreverly, for 12 years and 1 month. That's 4,414 days. Now, looking back, using the 12 years as the only clear, uninebriated experience that I have had since I discovered booze at 16 years old, I'm going to really stick, I think, quite naturally to the joy, literally the joy and the frustration and life on life's terms that you get when you're continuously sober. And my experience, really, because I'm coming up on 80 years old, and looking back, I realized that my first, go out with the boys drinking experience was at either age 14 or age 16. So nominally, there were about 4 decades where I was in and out of sobriety, in and out of AA, in and out of everything that made me miserable. So I'm not sure there's much in the way. I have some funny stuff, but it's peripheral to me. Maybe I'll mention it in a minute. But the most serious thing to be delivered by me today is I was an instant alcoholic. After my first drinking experience, I wanted more and I wanted more alcohol. I don't even understand how I knew. I must have read labels because the other guys would get normal beer. I had to get the fortified beer the second time we went out drinking. I had to be drinking until I fell on my face at my wedding when I was 22 years old. I mean, I drank because I liked the feeling of drinking. I have to conclude that. And I had an incredible, what do they call it? Jonesing for, no, there's another more formal name for it, just addiction, yearning and addiction. I love this stuff. And I was pretty much an uninteresting person growing up. Oh, I know what, I have a couple of vignettes here. I'm told that when I was 6 years old, and back in those days, they took out your tonsils if you needed your tonsils. That was the way, if you had constant infections. By the way, is this transmission working? Because I'll put back the placeholder if it's not. All right, then I'll sit quietly here and not move. 6 years old, I'm told that I acted like a wild person coming out of the ether. Back then, they actually, put a mask on you and did ether. And the physician told my parents, don't let him drink. So it was predicted. And by the way, if anybody's interested after, if the meeting is short, one of the most fun things that I discovered in sobriety, this is the fun part, were the very active years where everybody in Ireland, you can help me, Bridget, with it, if it was both parts of Ireland or not, took the pledge. And if you took the pledge, you didn't dare drink alcohol. And somebody discovered if you chill down ether and you keep it nice and cold, you can have ether drinking parties. And they became very fabulous. According to the guy who put out this information is a neuroscientist at Johns Hopkins. And I have his books. In sobriety, I have probably done more reading than I've ever done in my life, where I'm trying to understand what I'm reading. And that was really a hot item at one point, to drink ether. You didn't break the pledge. The only problem was that it evaporates so quick that a lot of the ether came, would respire back out. And if you were near a flame, you could set, this is a brand new beard. I've never done a beard. You could set your beard or your ass on fire, depending on what you were exposing to the flame. A little anecdotal fun there. So that was a limited kind of way to get around the pledge. I don't know where I was, so I'll refer to some notes to why I digressed. Okay, so so I was in and out of drinking and in and out of AA for maybe almost 4 decades, but I also developed, instead of remaining a lackluster student, I couldn't go to college, but I went to Santa Monica City College. They actually had a trade school there. And those sneaky people discovered that I had a brain. And by the time I left them for about 2 years, they sent me up to Berkeley and said, and they helped me because I almost flunked out of Berkeley. Anyhow, by the time I got done combining Berkeley and UCLA, I had a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a PhD, because my passion for science, and particularly genetics and evolution, so that's not going to give you any supernatural information, was equivalent to wanting to drink. The drinking just made shorter research days, and so I had these parallel lusts and had to deal with them until I finally, I actually went through my whole time where I got paid to be a scientist at various institutions. Now I can digress at a place that might put a chuckle. I no longer chuckle at this. I had an opportunity when I was at, I think I was at University of Wisconsin, and the ad came out saying, and I happen to have been schooled in a particular technique called two-dimensional gel electrophoresis of proteins. And I applied, and it was for a temporary 2 years at NIAAA, which is National Institute of Alcoholism and Alcohol Abuse. So the bottom line was I handled that 2 years. I didn't get sober. Looking back on it, perhaps, I hoped to, but didn't have the right attitude. And I would ride a bicycle in from Northwest, where I lived, which is a very nice part of Washington, D.C. And I would probably have a morning drink. And when I arrived where I was going to do research, I slipped into the stockroom and had orange juice and vodka just to take the edge off so I could do something that day. In the course of those 2 years, I did have a chance, though, to work with genetically defined critters other than man. And that was fun. I mean, looking back on it, you can learn something, not about human alcoholism, but about alcohol mediated behavior changes if you have it genetically controlled. And at Berkeley as an undergraduate, there was a professor that had a colony of sensitive and resistant mice to alcohol. And then at NIAAA, it would be the fruit fly and the nematode worm. So it was fun, but in no way did it help me with my personal problem. You know, this was a problem that I had defined in early college, saying you're an alcoholic, Bob, and someday you're going to have to take care of it. Well, someday never came until I woke up and was told they found me somewhere in Santa Monica, ready to die from alcohol poisoning. And that would be that 4,414 days ago. But that was amazing. You know, I knew with for me, I have no idea what your alcoholism is, your human alcoholism is, but I knew that for me, one drink and I would disappear somewhere in the world for a minimum of 2 years again. I mean, that was my pattern. And when I woke up being told what had happened in a nursing home where everybody didn't have much hope for me, I didn't die, but I didn't have craving. And I have no, you know, I just accept it as a free-floating gift from finally slapping myself in the face enough to know you cannot violate, you can never have the first drink. And so my current sobriety depends on having no first drink. And that's the only gift I have in my experience with my human alcoholism. The rest of it, I don't know what yours will be. I did, my situation initially in the first year or two was, I was in the San Fernando Valley and I had to go what I said very irreverently was the Jesus meeting. It was a meeting where they wanted you to say, because it was the only place I'd go, I'd lost everything and I had to walk around town to get to meetings. And what was it called? No, it was called, I forget the name of it. But the thing that pissed me off, and I had to settle, which I did immediately. I didn't want to get drunk again. So I accepted anything. And this was old-fashioned AA that I went to every day. They had a different meeting, but on Sundays they had the beginners meetings. So I politically got into the beginners group because I was a beginner. And even though they were, 4 decades younger than I, they would try to make you say, I don't know why these old-fashioned AA meetings want you, it's like they miss their Catholic or Episcopalian or Jewish or whatever religiosity has formal recitation, because they said, you've got to thank your sponsor. You've got to thank this group. And most of all, you got to thank God. And I refuse to do it. I'm an atheist. I've been an atheist forever. So not forever, but since falling in love with science. And so, they gave up on me, expected me never to stay sober because I wasn't doing recitation. But through that process, Bridget, how long have I been jabbering?
You still have some time left.
Okay. well, the process of finding the people that I associate with now is where I'm going. And this was pre-pandemic, and secular was starting to take off. Of course, the pandemic made Zoom take off, and then secular just exploded. So I started going to other meetings because I'd met some people that didn't just go to what I call the Jesus meeting. And I ended up going to some more, let's not worry about religion in AA kind of meetings. It wasn't formal in any way. And I started meeting people, and there was a Monday night meeting that had a mixed gender meeting, and it had a group of men, all of whom were just incredible when they would talk. And I looked at them and I said, anyone in this room, any man in this room could be my sponsor. I had a sponsor back in Santa Monica, but not in West Hills. So now I had this opportunity. Cutting to the chase, I got a sponsor who was raised by a guy called Richard the Poet, who was a crazy guy who saved my sponsor's life. And aside from the religiosity, my sponsor was all about the value of having a path to work with when you're trying to get and stay sober. So, you just sort of put away the first 3 steps and say, that's historical and cute. And you start at step 4 and you work your way through. And he did take me line by line through the big book. And I had the closest thing I've ever had is a spiritual experience. So we would go out in one of the parks in the San Fernando Valley, and we'd be reading line by line. Now we had finished chapter 5, and I think I have it here. Let me try to get it without destroying the setup I have here and have it fall down. I'd rather read it verbatim. So you finish chapter 5, and so it's the next time we get together. Excuse me for the delay, but it's better than having me paraphrase. As far as I'm concerned, what is wrong with me? Can't get the page I'm looking for. Ah, there it is. So we're starting a new day, and it's chapter 6, Into Action. And we would exchange reading as you do in most of these reading things. And when I hit the bottom paragraph, it talked about me, because the secret, the thing I hadn't shared in all the time that I'd been sharing and staying sober, was the big one. And the big one was, and I'll explain it, I'll read it. It says, many of us thought it necessary to go much further. We will be more reconciled to discussing ourselves with another person if we see good reasons why we should do. The best reason first, if we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. Time after time, and I don't know, what, there's no statistic backing this up, as you know, in AA, but it impacted me. Time after time, the newcomer that having tried to keep to themselves certain facts, and that's suddenly I realized I hadn't told my sponsor everything. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods. Almost invariably, they got drunk. And suddenly I realized what I had to say. And that was, I'm a fake. I'm a phony. I don't remember anything about my education. The only way I got all those degrees was doing whatever was necessary to get the right grade, or kissing ass, or whatever a person does. And since I was essentially isolated and had not acquired you know, I burned my bridges about jobs every place. You know, all the university, you know, it was just a gone deal. So I wrote to these textbook companies and I told them what I'm trying to do. I want to be an undergraduate again. And this is the subject I'm interested in. And can you help me out? And damn it all, at least 2 publishers started writing to me and saying, what would you like? And they would send me these books. And I would just start reading them. And the thing I started doing was saying, you can't move on to chapter 2 until you really understand chapter 1. You're trying to get an education, not a grade. And it started to be fun. And then I discovered throughout this 12 years now, I discovered Audible books and I started branching and, you know, it was started out with genetics, evolution, molecular biology. And I've been looking at the different kinds of ethical compasses that I have to practice because I'm a natural born. I had to break old habits. I think that's been the most fun and most mandatory thing I've done is to get rid of. Somebody said to me, a guy that had about 30 years, he said, you know, good habits are just as hard to get rid of than bad habits. But it was the replacement theory. You know, there are so many slots in your ego that are your maximum number of habits. And right now, all you have is piss poor habits. So let's kick those out and replace them with virtuous habits. And then I started reading, or not right then, this is kind of a collage here of things. I just got done recently within this year of really understanding what the classic Greeks meant by virtuous people. And, you know, it's an argument that the best in life, you know, the good of life comes with virtuous habits. And so I had to, what does that mean? And, you know, this is stuff that I used to, you know, get a little bit loaded on and have round talks with, you know, now I want to really understand this stuff. And then this horrible one-party system that we used to have a 2-party system and all of that. I got books galore. By the way, I will sell all of the former president's topic books at 10% of what I paid for them. They're only good for once, I hope. And just go on to other things, you know, just start to be this monster that wants to learn about this and wants to, so poetry became something important. So what I guess I'm saying is, I knew that thanks to the movie City Slickers, when Curly said, one thing, until you find the one thing, you'll never change. Well, I tried to find a one thing only to discover that one thing became different one things, and it's true. And so allows the opportunity. I am driven by the benefits of thinking clearly in a non-intoxicated state. And it's an addiction. Okay, works for me. It's a lot of fun. And it's a lot of angst and you know, it's not all that, you know, when you have a sense memory of how easy it is to change your feelings with alcohol, let's say, and have a different feeling, you know, sense memory of what alcohol used to do for me and also take away from me is very compelling. But I said it before, this is the first time in the last, probably within this year, when I hit something about 12, probably I think I'm in league with the apostles, that It's a sense of intellectually knowing why I can say no to a drink finally, before you take the first drink, because I know everything goes back to square one if I take that one drink. My first one drink made two drinks and six packs and large bottles back in the day, decades ago. There's no unknown there. And, you know, I think you guys, I'm starting to get so enamored with my changing the volume of my voice that perhaps it's time that I say thank you for letting me share, and I hope and look forward to whatever you're going to say. Thank you.